What's good, everybody? It's your boy Everton, and in today's video I'm going to tell you how I'm able to survive on Mint Mobile's 3 GB data plan. And guys, I promise you it's nothing crazy. I'm not telling you to take your phone, put it inside some metal case, that way no mobile data is allowed to get out or anything like that. I'm not telling you guys to ride around on airplane mode either all the time. These are practical changes that I made that allowed me to use a lot less data. Now, just a little bit about me. I did recently sign up for Mint Mobile, and I came from a major carrier. I was actually on T-Mobile, which has one of the more generous data plans out there. They actually allowed 50 gigs of data that you're able to use before they decided to slow you down. And guys, I actually hit 50 gigabytes of data a few times, and they slowed me down because I was obviously abusing it. So anyway, transferring from T-Mobile to now Mint Mobile, I actually signed up for the 8 gigabyte plan, and I'm 14 days into the plan. I've only used about 0.8 gigabytes of data, which means that if I continue on this trend, I will have only used about 2 gigabytes of data in a 30-day cycle, which is amazing. Now, one of the reasons why I actually moved over to Mint Mobile was because I was not only trying to save some money, but I hadn't been taking advantage of a lot of the value that a lot of the other companies, like the major carriers, had been offering. And I had been in love with the plan ever since. Also, guys, there's a link in the description. If you guys do want to check it out, you will get a credit, as so will I, towards your plan if you use that link. I've actually loved the service so far, but I did notice that one of my concerns was it was such a huge step down in tier of data that I was a little bit concerned. And I started to make some practical changes, and now I'm going to tell you some of those changes that I did to save you guys a lot of data. So the first thing that I did was I took advantage of streaming services offline playback feature. Now, personally, the one that I use the most is YouTube TV. I'm not affiliated with them, but it is something that works out for me because a lot of times when I'm on the go, a lot of the media that I watch is about 8 to 15 minutes long. And that's for like in cases where I'm getting my oil change or something like that. I'll download a couple videos that I want to watch. So FYI guys, streaming 1 hour of 1080p video uses about 3 gigabytes of data or more, according to an article on Android Central. But most streaming services do have an offline playback feature in which you could take advantage of. And the cool thing about a lot of these companies now, or these services, is that they have something called smart downloads. At least I know Netflix has it, where you can if you download a couple episodes and you watch a couple episodes and complete them, once you get back on Wi-Fi, they'll start to download another episode, which saves you not only data, but it also saves you memory on your phone. So a lot of the major streaming network services like YouTube Premium, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, they offer some type of offline playback, which is really great for saving data. That's where I save a ton of data. So the second thing I did was I turned off Wi-Fi Assist or switched to mobile data. Now basically that's a feature that Apple and Android phones have, where if your network is determined to be unstable or weak, what your phone will do is it will switch to a mobile data to be able to compensate and keep you with good data. I turned that feature off because I noticed that a couple times I have pretty good Wi-Fi speeds here, but I noticed that I was on data for some reason. I don't know why, but as soon as I turned my data off, it would switch right back to Wi-Fi, and then it would automatically, go back to the Wi-Fi signal, and it was very fine. I didn't have any issues, but I do have a Samsung phone, which is an Android. I know that iPhone has this feature as well. I'm gonna leave instructions on how to turn that off in the description below of this video. But this has saved me a ton of data because there would be times where I'd be doing something, even watching YouTube videos, and it would switch to mobile data. Maybe sometimes even when I'm at like a grocery store and I'm waiting in line at checkout, and the Wi-Fi in grocery stores isn't that good, or department stores isn't that good, so it would switch to mobile data, and I'm like, oh snap, I'm watching on my mobile data. So I actually turned that off just so that I wouldn't have to use unnecessary data, and I didn't know that it was actually happening. So the next thing I did was actually kind of the opposite. I have this feature called turn on Wi-Fi automatically on our phones. It's something that allows your phone to use your location data, and if you've signed into Wi-Fi in a couple places before, it'll automatically turn that Wi-Fi on. And what that did was if I went to certain places like a grocery store where I had logged into that Wi-Fi a couple times, it would automatically remember that location, and at that time, it would just go ahead and say, hey, go ahead and restore this Wi-Fi, and I'd be on Wi-Fi network. This has been really helpful for times when I come home and I get distracted and I want to do other things, and I start streaming, and next thing you know, I'm already on Wi-Fi, I don't have to turn it on, etc. So the next thing that I did was I downloaded a data saving app. Now, a few phones like this phone has one built into it, but I took it a step further. I really like the app Datally, which I'll link in the description, and it has a couple of neat features which allow you to get a little bit more control over what you want to actually do with your data saver. Not only that, it has one super neat feature where it actually reserves some data for you so that in case you actually run out in an emergency situation, you can have a certain amount of data, like 500 gigabytes of data, etc. And you can use that in the case of emergency. A perfect example of this was at one point in time, I got pulled over, I had ran out of mobile data, and the cop was like, hey, need license, registration, and proof of insurance. My insurance was on my app for Geico, which is my provider, and then I was trying to pull it up, and I didn't have any Wi-Fi or any mobile data, and luckily the cop said, hey, I see that from my area, that from his database, it showed that I had insurance on my car, so I was fortunate enough that it happened. So it is important. I did like the fact that they have this emergency reserve, especially if you're gonna go on a lower tier of data and you want to be able to use certain features. It's good to have a reserve. So the last thing I did was I used Google Offline Maps. Now, Everton, yes, Google Maps works offline. Everybody knows this. You don't need internet connection to be able to use it if you're going to a place. And while that is true, some of the limitations that happen is that you can only get navigation to a place. But if you download an offline map in your home area, or you can even select custom areas that you may visit from time to time, what it does is it searches and it downloads all the data that's contained within that area, which means that if you're driving around in your hometown and you're like, hey, I want some Chick-fil-A, let me just go ahead and search Chick-fil-A, you can actually do that using the downloaded data, and it'll show you based off that data where Chick-fil-A is, whereas if you were to do that, it uses about 5 megabytes of data, and it's always updating. If you go online, it's always updating traffic information, etc. Pro tip, a lot of times what I do is before I actually leave the home and I get off of Wi-Fi, I use my Google Maps navigation. That way I can get data from my Wi-Fi about traffic conditions, and then I head on my way out. So guys, I'm actually thinking about switching to the 3 gigabytes plan. I'm obviously going to assess my situation at that time. Currently, I'm at work from home, but if I do have to go into the office or something like that, and there's a requirement for data, I will go ahead and upgrade to my plan. They have tiers of data that can fit almost any usage pattern. But once again, guys, I've been loving the service. I haven't had any issues with it. Once again, there's a link, a referral code in the description. If you guys want to check them out, you guys can get a credit, as I will as well. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video helped you out. And if it did, please hit a thumbs up. And until next time, I'm Everton, and I do videos Everton's way. Peace.